Okay. Zok to Gemara. So we had a machlokes between Rav and Shmuel. Someone sold an ox, and he sold it to a fellow who had multiple businesses. The fellow who bought it had both a butcher shop, so he sometimes bought oxen just to check, but he also was a farmer, so he bought oxen as well to work the field. And it turned out it was a nakhin, meaning it's not something you can keep to work the field. Rather, you have to kill it right away. And the question is, who is responsible, even though they might be of equal value, who's responsible to liquidate that shore so they have the money to buy a shore that's made for plow? The Gemara says, Rav holds, since right people want to buy a shore to plow it, it's a mekach tos. And Shmuel says, no, I'm going to mechaber l'haraya. So let me continue. Shor Yoraya. There was a shore that was innocently grazing in the field. V'nimtza shor harag b'tzidai. And right near it, there was a murdered shore found. Let's get a little bit more background on this shore that was grazing in the Rashbam. Shor Yoraya v'nimtza shor b'tzidai. Okay. What's the difference? What this shore was doing? The point is that there was a whole bunch of shvarim in this grazing area. And the dead shore could be blamed on many different shvarim, and we don't necessarily know specifically which shore was the shor hanageach, was the shor that killed the animal. So Nachama, shor Yorayim v'nimtza shor harag b'tzida. Aval pi shezeh menugach v'zeh, even though this is a shtoist animal that's dead on the floor, and the animal that's live, we know it's a mu'ud, so the likelihood is that this animal shtoist v'zeh mu'ud ligach, or zeh menushach, or this animal is bitten v'zeh mu'ud lishoich. And the other animal that's alive, we know is a muti. You don't make that assumption. A gomel means a gomel is in heat, and the Rashbam tells us that when gemalim mate, they're not facing each other. They put their hinds together, and that's how they do the deed. And gemalim, when they're in heat, they're very wild and very dangerous. If you have one gamal who you know is in heat, v'nimtza gamal harag b'tzidai, and you found a dead camel near him, b'yadua shezeh harag. There we know for sure that this gamal that was in heat, which was really wild, killed the dead gamal. Let's have a look at the Rishbam. Ein oimim, the Rabbanon, loy azli basar umdana. The Rabbanon don't go basar umdana. Meaning, just because this is the shor nakhin, and this is the dead shore near it, we don't draw a line and assume that this shore did it. You don't even pay half. How could you be so 100% sure that this animal is the one that murdered it? There are other shvarim there as well. This is more similar. We don't know if the shore killed the vlad or not. And nevertheless, you're mechayiv him half. So why isn't this similar to that? We already know that this shore did a negicha, and the whole question is was the baby born before or after? And you put the par in its chazaka and say that it was muberes until now. So therefore, there's a 50% chance, in fact, that the death of the uber was caused by the animal. But over here in our case, we don't even know if this animal stoiced at all. It just isn't just a wild animal there, but we don't know for sure that there was a negich. But Rav Aimer, Basar Umdana also Bedina Mamanus. By Bedina Mamanus, you could follow an Umdana. And therefore, Gamal ha'oicher, also b'tashmish revia, the meaning of b'chayris like b'tashmish gamal, it's ocher keneged ocher. Ustam behemoth b'shas tashmish mishtagois. Most behemoths, I thought it was only camels. Most behemoths, they go crazy during this activity. Umakin zcharim zeh, and the males, I guess, fight over their mate, and therefore it's possible that the animal's going to come out dead. The ikadamri oicher kamoin doicher v'loini here. And those who say gamal oicher means he's snorting, I guess that means also that he's angry. But you do shesaharga Rabachol, you could rely on the fact that this gamal is the perpetrator. The muchzaku b'shas for bialakas, because there's a chazaka that an animal will be fighting others. B'chol shegein b'shar hamud ligach shekvar shenogach kvar sholosh pam. Kol shegein in the case of the reisha, where there are abundance of their halacha, where you have a shor hamud, it's a nachrin, it's a nashkin, surely we'll blame it on that shor. Rabusa nakat gamal oicher apel b'shema olam loy nogach v'nosha. So Rabach is saying not only if it's so much more likely that this animal did it, because this animal is a shor nachrin, not only there, but even in the case of a gamal where this gamal never hurt anybody before, even there, I go basar umdinus, I go basar the pashtus of what happened, and therefore will be mechayiv the Baal HaGam. Svarua. So let's try to break down this machloikis between Rav Acha and the Chachamim. Svarua the Ruba v'Chazaka ki adadinim. Let's assume that a roiv is just like a chazaka. Zokter Ashbam v'Chazaka the high shor hamuchzak lidach. So now we want to say the same way that in our case we have a roiv that roiv people buy animals in order to work with them. That has the same power of a raya as the chazaka, that this shor is a shor hamazik, this shor is a muad. We want to compare the two. The Gemara is assuming that the raya of the roiv in the discussion of Rav and Shmuel and the raya of chazaka in this discussion between the Chacham and Rabbi Acha have the same effect. Once you make that assumption, so then Leimer Rav, who follows the roiv, Lamakar Acha, who follows the chazaka of an animal that's a natkin, Ushmul that says and you don't follow any roivs of what type of animal I bought, that you don't go by the chazaka, you don't assume that just because this animal is a muad that it shtois this time. So again, the machlokes Rav and Shmuel seems to be totally if hamoitzi mechaver levaraya trumps roiv and equally chazaka or not. Amalach Rav, Zok Rav, no. Our machlokes are not toilers ever said. Another Amri, who I say you follow the roiv, is a fiddle in Tanakama who does not follow the chazaka. At kan loikamer Tanakama hosam. Why did the Tanakama say over there that you don't follow the chazaka? You don't blame it on the shor muad. Who said that the raya of roiv and the raya of chazaka are the same? Maybe in fact they're different. You can't bring a raya. Ushmul Amalach, the opposite. Another Amri, I feel Rab Acha. Even Rab Acha, who holds that you don't go. I'm sorry, that you do go back to the roiv. Even Rab Acha holds you do go back to the roiv. I can agree with him, even though I normally hold them mochim mechaver levaraya. I can look at Rab Acha hosam el dazlina basa chazaka to who gufei muchzak. Rab Acha says you go by the chazaka because the animal is muchzak. Maybe you don't go basaroi. So the Gemara's teretz is very poshut. That the raya of roiv and the raya of chazaka, maybe roiv is different than chazaka, and chazaka is different than roiv. Do gufay muchzak to Rishbam? The chivin duhu oimed b'tzidoi. That's li basar. Shmuel is saying normally I don't go basaroi, but here where there's an animal, a live animal, that's a shar muad standing right beside the dead animal. That is a very strong chazaka. Maybe there even Shmuel would be right. Aval basaruba. Now here is where the Rashbam has an extremely important thing, because up until now we thought we were comparing chazaka to roy. Zok to Rashbam. Here we're not talking about a regular roy. Aval basaruba the less the kamon layasmin. The pashas of the Gemara is maybe you follow this chazaka, but you don't go basaroy. The Rashbam is saying no, chazaka and roy. The Gemara holds are still the same. It's Ruba the Lesekamon that's weaker. what's the difference between Ruba the Isa Kamon and Ruba the Lesser Kamon? Ruba the Isa Kamon is if you have 9 stores that sell Basra Shchuta and 1 store that sells Basra Nevela in the same plaza, and you find a piece of meat that's unmarked in the parking lot, we will say it goes Basra the Ruba the Isa Kamon. It probably came from one of these stores that are right here. Ruba the Lesser Kamon is a statistic. Statistically, the animal that's a nakhan was more likely to have committed this crime over here. So Ruba the Lesser Kaman, there's actually a shayla how Ruba the Isa Kaman works and how Ruba the Lesser Kaman works. There are those who hold that Ruba the Isa Kaman only works b'toris a psak. In other words, just because there's 9 stores here, who said that this came from one of the 9? It could have just as easily came from the 10th, which was Basra Nevela. So that those who learn, it just Roiv tells you how to paskin. Roiv is not a beer, Roiv is a hachra. That type of Roiv. There are those who learn that the Ruba, the Lesikamon, is a beer. It tells you what happens. Statistically, it's likely to this animal, if you have a child who killed this shor, statistically proven it's likely that the shor Hamua did it. I'm sorry?
Less is less powerful.
Well, clearly the Rashbam is saying that Aruba de Les Kamon would be less powerful because the Rashbam is saying Dafka because it's Aruba de Les Kamon is why Shmuel doesn't hold it. But this is already there's a lot of Torah available on the sugya. I believe there's even a Kiveger on here. There's even a Kiveger here with the Tzorchin. So let's see if we could make heads or tails out of Rabbi Kiveger. Mashma the Ruba the Isakaman Harachlin b'mamen acharai. It's mashma from the Shbam is saying is that Shmuel is only saying the reason why over there by the animals by the Bashar Nachal you don't blame that the Shar Muad is because it's a Ruba de Lesakaman. But it's mashma if there was a shaila involved in a Ruba de Isakaman, you would go Basarai. The Chayyur Isi, the Trumas Hadeshin, Shimon Shin Yudalad, the Haitzi came Yilot from the Rishbam. The Trumas Hadeshin was Badaik, this very same diak that we did from the Rishbam. The only problem is that we lost on our Rishbam Loyal of Talik Beis and Beis. From yesterday's Gemara, the Rishbam says, Dibra Masla Bisura, going Tes Chanuyos, Mashma de Bemomen Gam Kai Gavna, the Havah de Isakamon, Leas Luna Basra, the Tzorchin. When the Rishbam was explaining yesterday, why Shmuel doesn't hold you go Basar much in the Chaver al Varaya, and you don't go Basar Roy, the Rishbam uses an example of a case of Ruba the Isa Kama. Okay, let's see the head of the Gemara. Toshma. Again, we're trying to suggest that the Machloek Rav and Shmuel, if you go Basar Roy or Basar the Chazaka, is a Machloek Tanoi. Hamoicher Peros Lechaveri. Finally, we understand why this machlokes Rav and Shmuel was introduced over here in Bava Basra because we're going to bring a raya from our Mishnah. So now we're getting back to our Mishnah. And you tried planting them, and they didn't grow. Even if it's pishton, which the Rishbam told us is most likely that you would have bought it to plant, although a miyot of people eat them. Vast majority of pishton is sold for the purposes of planting. Still, in the chayav b'achriyuson, the moicher getzei reishol chalafanecha, and it's not considered a mekach tos. Right? That's what our Mishnah says. My afilu. It says va'afilu zara pishton. What's afilu? Lav afilu zara pishton. The ruba lizriya. What's the chiddush in the Mishnah with the afilu zara pishton? It's that even though Roiv of the Pishton that's sold in the world is sold to Zriya, the Ruba Zriya Zavni, most people buy it for Zriya, and you still don't go Basaroi. This is very, very much a support of Shmuel, right? Because according to Rav, where if Roiv people buy animals to work with, that makes it into a Mekach Tos, and he's got to take the ox back. Well, Roiv of the Pishton that's bought is bought for planting. So Rav Pashas would disagree with our Mishnah. So it seems like Rav is totally in the Machlokes Tanoim, and this Mishnah is consistent with Shmuel. In fact, Rav's halacha is inconsistent with our Mishnah because Rav is totally in the Machlokes Tanoim. Now we have to find a Tana who holds like Rav. Although Rav Tanu Balak, but Gemara wants to find a Tana for Rav. The Tanya we learned, if you sell pears to your friend, Vizorin and you planted them, and they did not grow. If it's if it's seeds of a garden, like tomato seeds or green pepper seeds, where no one eats them, the only purpose, it's 100% clear, it's mamish like you spoke out, Dr. Rishpam, that I'm selling this for the purpose of planting, well then chayiv ba'achriyusan, because that's not a shayla, that's a vadai. But zera pishton eino chayiv ba'achriyusan, which is exactly like our Mishnah, but Rabbi Yosy says, which is going to support Rab's halacha, noisenloi demei zera. He has to pay for the demei zera. The roiv pishton sheba oilam nizra. I'm reading the Rashbam. Roiv pishton that's sold in the world is normally planted. Amruloi. So the Rabbanon told him, "How could you, Rabbi Yossi, say that I can claim I bought it to plant with, and therefore it's a mekach tos?" But many people buy pishton for other reasons. So Zok to Gemara, man tanoi. Who is the Tana that we're trying to find in support of Rav? That you go boss of the right. Ilem Rabbi Yossi. Ilem Rabbi Yossi. The Amruloi Tarvayu Basaruba Asli. They both go Basaroi. Why? Man, even the Amruloi holds Harba Loichanesh Ladvar Macherim. So he's not saying you don't follow the Roiv. He's saying that the Roiv is not like what you're saying. The Roiv is saying that people buy it not for planting. Mar also Basaruba de Inchi. The Amruloi says you don't look at the pounds of pishton sold. If Roiv, the pounds of pishton are sold for planting, it's planting. If Roiv are sold for eating, it's eating. No, you look at how many transactions. Roiv transactions, Roiv purchasers that buy pishton might be buying it to eat and not to plant. Umar and Rabbi Yossi goes, Basaruba Dizriya. You look at the actual amount of pishton sold. So then you don't see a machalek istanoim here. Fakert, here you see both cheetahs might hold like Rav, that you go Basar the Roiv. The question merely is, what is the Roiv? Tanakama of Rabbi Yossi, Tanakama of Amrulai. So you have to say that the Tanakama is the one who holds like Shmuel, that holds a Motzei Mechavel of Haraya, and Rabbi Yossi and the Amrulai are two different shitas. They hold you both go Basar Roiv. The question is, what is the Roiv? Yeah, sure. That's much more pishton. Everybody who's much more pishton would be bought for planting. That's exactly what Rabbi Yossi holds. That's what Rabbi Yossi holds. They hold you go bust of the right. You don't go bust of the transactions. You go bust of the amounts. That's exactly what the shaila is.
You don't have to go bust the right. You don't just see what the transaction is. You know what it is.
You mean people who buy for planting buy in larger bulk? Right. So why wouldn't that show? I didn't understand what you said. I guess the Gemara holds not a determined factor. I don't know. It's a good order. The volume in the sale should also be an indicator as to what he bought it for. I hear. Let's see if the response says anything about that. On the bottom of Tzadik Gimel Aleph, because they're in the Gina. The lean near like Shin Klaalbach Brisa. Okay, let's skip it out. Okay, Zok the Rashbam on the top of bottom of Aleph, on top of the base. Noisin Lazarish or a Pishin Shabbat in Israel. Amruloi Ein Chayvach Rusim. Shaharbe b'nei Adam loikhin lidvar machem lamaychol ulurfua. They use it for other purposes. Ucheneged Adam echad shekoina yud soyin l'zriya. You might have one guy who buys 10 soyin for zriya. Yesh mei b'nei Adam shekoina miyasela achas lamaychol ulurfua. Ubasaroy v'loikhin aslidam. So the Rashbam is setting out very clearly the individual transaction amount when you're buying for Zriya will be much, much more than the individual transaction amount buying it for other reasons. So Dui's kasha becomes stronger. Rabbi Yossi Basar Rubu D'Zriya. Shehayochid hakoyne l'Zriya. Oh, so here's Shehayochid hakoyne l'Zriya koyne Yosher mimeya hakoyne l'machal l'refuah. So again, the Rashbam is highlighting Dui's kasha that clearly the transaction amount should be indicative of what it was for. And we Tanna Kama Rabbi Yosy Hainu Taimei, the Vadi Basra Ruba Dizriya, Havalon Mezel, Rabbi Yosy Lechayvoi, Eloshein Ochen B'Mammon Acharoi. That was the Gemara's Havamina. Elotem Ochi, Elo also Nami Basra Ruba Dinchi, and became Ma'ika Ben Tanna Kama Lachmaloi. So the Gemara says Einachanami. So let's see this response. Hotavayu Basar Ruba Asli. Tafilu Tana the Amaloi sphere like a Rav that you go Basar Roy. The Haida Potter Hainu Timer the Ozol Basar Ruba de Inchi Kidmafarish Timer Hybrid Loikanaj. So I don't see that anyone asked the kasha, but I think it's a Gavalta kasha. I think those asking Gavalta kasha, the amount in the transaction should be indicative of what he bought. Okay, let's see the Gemara right here. Tana Rabbanon, Malu Noisinloi. When you do have to pay back, so Dr. Eshbam, Hamoicha Zeroy Negino. He says Zeroy Negino, if it's not good seeds and they don't grow, everybody agrees that's a Mekach Tosh and it has to be refunded. She'eina Chol. They're never eaten. What does have to be paid back? So we're finished discussing the Machlokas Rav and Shmuel, and now we're getting into when you do have to refund, what do you refund? I remember we used to buy tubing for in-floor that you put into a floor to heat a floor, or you put into a driveway to heat a driveway, and the manufacturers would show off, we have 100-year warranty on my pipe. So I said, so that means if let's say a pipe leaks, you'll give me a new piece of pipe. I said, who's going to pay to rip up the concrete and all the damages? We can. So I said, then you're full of baloney. So your warranty is worth it. So here too, I planted, I plowed, I hired, I rented, I did so much, and you're going to give me back a couple of seeds. So unfortunately, you're warranted to get new seeds, but that's about it. What's the itzah? We'll see. The Rishbam says Yitzias Harisha. You have to plow. It's a lot of work. Why would I have to pay for the itzah? That's a grama at worst, right? So I would have to pay for it. It's a knas. You sell inferior schayra, and you cause that your customers waste so much money in planting it. You're going to have to pay them the costs that they extended to plant.
How would he know that the seeds won't sprout? How
it must be speaking where he knew that these were problem seeds.
Okay, because otherwise,
I know you buy a pro. I remember there was once a certain type of boiler. I'm not going to use any specific name because every single manufacturer does this, and we were having a problem with their burners, and it was very frustrating. Their burners kept on failing. So we come into the supplier and we brought the burners back and said, okay, we're going to give you new burners, but it's so strange. We never had this before. So we're talking, I went behind the counter, we went into the warehouse, and I see it's a huge box full of old burners. Surprised, never happened before. They're all full of baloney. So the seeds don't grow. Never heard of anything like this before. Everybody's growing so beautifully. I don't know what this is. It must be something. What did you do? I'm sure maybe you didn't fertilize it properly. But Yeshayim, so man Yeshayim, who is the Yeshayim who throws this extra liability upon the person who knowingly sells bad seeds? Rab Chista, Rab Shimon ben Gamliel. It's Rab Shimon ben Gamliel. Hi, Rab Shimon ben Gamliel. Where in Shas do you find your Rab Shimon ben Gamliel that adds this extra responsibility to pay? Ilemi Rab Shimon ben Gamliel the Masnisa. If you want to suggest, we have in our very Mishnah, Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel. Let's go back to our Mishnah, the beginning of our parak. Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel said in our Mishnah, now, when we learned the Mishnah, we learned it with the Rishbam, according to the Maskana, that Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel was not even arguing on the Tanakam, right? He's just adding an explanation that if it's something that you know for sure was bought to plant, then you're Chai B'Charuson. But right now, the Gemara is going to reevaluate that. So maybe it's the Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel of our Mishnah. The Tanan we learned, Hamoy Chaperes Tachaveri V'Zorim V'Loy Tzamchu V'Afilo Zara Pishtan Ein Chai B'Charuson. Ein Maseifa. Shimon Leimer Sarei Nigina Ein Nachom Chai B'Charuson. Frank the Gemara, based on how we understood the Mishnah, Tanakama Nami Hachi Ka'amar. Right? The Tanakama said the same thing. If Dafka Zera Pishtan, who Ein Chai B'Charuson, because Pishtan can go either way. Right? It could be you might be buying it for planting or for eating or for refu or for whatever. Ha Zarei Nigina Ein Nachom. where it's 100% the Rashbam says as if you spoke up when you bought it that this is for planting. So in what way is Rab Shimon ben Gamliel and the Tanakama arguing? Elamai, let's say that they're arguing about Eitzah, even though there's no way you see from the Mishnah, from what they said, that they should take any stand on this discussion. But since we have two Tanoim arguing, and we don't have an explanation in what they possibly could be disagreeing about, let's superimpose our idea of what we think they should be arguing on and say this is what they're arguing about. Mar Sover de Meizera, Umar Sover Afoitzah. And who holds what? Zok Rashbam, Umar Sover Afoitzah, Balchikatani. Rab Shimon ben Gamliel Eimer, Zarei Negina, Shein Achol, and Chayiv, B'cholach Ryuzin, Afilu Yitzir. Frek Gemara, Mimai, Dilma, Ibcha. How do you know that Rab Shimon ben Gamliel is being Mechayivim Daitzah? Maybe it's the Tanakama. Since nowhere in their wording do you see they're talking about it, and you're just making up that this is what they must be arguing about, how do you know who to attribute what Shita to? Dr. Marholikashi, that's not true. It's called Tana Basra, L'tzfuya Milsa. Normally, when you have a Tana arguing, he's coming to add. So the Tanakama says you have to give him back the money for his seeds, and Rab Shimon ben Gamliel is adding, you also have to pay him for his expenses. Frankly, that's not maybe that's not Pshat in the Mishnah. Maybe Pshat in the Mishnah is the way we actually learned the Mishnah in the Rashbam when we originally learned the Mishnah. Rab Shimon ben Gamliel. Maybe the whole Mishnah is Rab Shimon ben Gamliel. And we have a Chesur Mechsra. So we're sticking in and we're saying this whole Mishnah is being said by Rab Shimon ben Gamliel. Share Rab Shimon ben Gamliel Eimer, because the Shita of Rab Shimon ben Gamliel is Zarei Negina, but everything else is not. So because of that, we cannot say that from our Mishnah there's any indication about a machlokes about paying the extra haitzah. So we have to go shopping for a different thing that Rab Shimon ben Gamliel said in Shas, where you see he holds that the seller would also have to give the expenses. Elahar Rab Shimon ben Gamliel. The Tanya we learned. Hamoylech chitin litchay. You take your chitin to a grinder, veloy losseson. Now the grinder has to do certain steps while he's grinding them, and one of the things he has to do is soak them, and he didn't. And because of that, he wasn't able to properly get the psilus out. Basan subin, and the net product, it was, instead of beautiful white flour, it was shvachamaish's flour. It would be called all grain or whole wheat, which today we pay more money for. Oy murson, or it turned into murson. Or what if you took kemach, you gave beautiful flour, lanaklim to a baker to bake your bread, the ofoy pasli poilim, and he didn't do a good job in baking, and instead of having a big, nice, fluffy challah, it came out flat like a matzah. Well, matzah is also more expensive than challah. All these examples aren't working nowadays, because all of these things, the bad thing, you pay more for nowadays. Or behema l'tabach, the nivla. Okay, that's surely a problem. You took a behema shech, and the sheikh is messed up. The halach is chayiv. Why? Because he has the status of a noisei sacher. We actually learned in Bava Kama. That if you're an uman and you do something for free, you're not chayiv if it messes up. But if you're an uman and you're doing it for pay, then you are chayiv if it gets messed up. Rab Shimon ben Gamliel Omer, noisin loy demei bushtoi. Here you had 30 people invited over for lunch, and you were going to be serving them this beautiful suda, and instead you put out these flat, bad matzahs, and you don't even have meat to serve with them. You know how embarrassing that is? So these service people who were supposed to help you in the preparation of your food, not only do they have to pay you for your damages, they also have to pay you for your demei busha, udemei busha's orcha, and the busha of the orchim. V'chein haya Rab Shimon ben Gamliel Omer, and that's what Rab Shimon ben Gamliel used to say. Minig gadol haya b'Yerushalayim. There was a minig in Yerushalayim. Hamoisher suda lechaveir. If someone hired a caterer, the kilkala, and the caterer didn't deliver on the food, noitzin lei demei bishtoi udemei boish's archa. He asked the caterer not only has to refund his money, but the caterer also has to add money because of the humiliation that his customer faced. His client. Oid minig gadol haya b'Yerushalayim. There's another interesting minig. Let's say you had an open house, you always had people over, but you don't want people barging into your house all hours of the day and night. So what they would do is you would have a sign, lunchtime, supper time. So Anim knew when to line up and come into your soup kitchen. So what was their sign? They had a mapa prusa la pesach. They hung some type of shmata by the door. Closed man shemapa prusa orchen nechnosen. As long as the mapa prusa means the cafeteria is open. Nistalka mapa eina orchen nechnosen. But over here you see from Reb Shimon Gamliel that not only does the caterer have to pay for the damages, meaning he has to refund the money that was given to him, or if he was given raw materials, he has to refund the raw materials. But he even has to pay busha. You see that the extra patch, the extra knas. That's the demei haitzah that we're talking about. Let's have a quick look at the Rashbam. Mipnei shu k'noisei sacher v'agoyzel kama mitartzinon ema mipnei shu noisei sacher. Avol bechinam, but an uman who does something for free, potter imumani, he's potter if he in fact is qualified. The mumchis letanaguli the iftarach. Bring a raya that you're a mumcha for shechting tanagolim, and you'll be potter because he was shechting for free. If you remember, this was relevant to the sugya where someone asked, I forget who it was, Rav or Hamnuna. He asked him to look at a coin to see if it was a valid coin, if she should accept it, and he said yes, accept it. And then it turned out it was fake, so he ended up paying because when it comes to coins, even if you're an uman and it's for free, you still have to pay because you need a much higher level of umans. The chein halacha, that is halacha. The uman b'schar is chayiv, but bechinim is potter. Kid Omer Rabbi Yochanan Hasan. The Mei Bishtai. Shezimin orchem vein loy mayachilim. You know how embarrassing that is. The chol shegen yitzia the chashem amoina, and for sure anything that he spent. Umiu less hilchasa ela karabanan the potter miboshes. Avada we don't pass like that. You're only chayiv for the actual damages. The grummy. Okay, gewaltig. Let's have a look at Orchen Nechnosen v'takana toivi l'kabos orchem sheyedu kisham yoichlu v'yelchu sham lecha. So that's why they had it. So there was an interesting shaila. How mechuyev are you? It says Adam mud lo'olam. How mechuyev is somebody for things that he messes up? So there was the following story. I can imagine this happening, and this is a true story. And this shaila was brought to Rabbi Zilberstein, and the shaila is as follows: there was a bacher who came home late at night, and he came into his dira. He was very thirsty, and there was a cup on the table. So he took water, he filled it into the cup, and he gulped it down. Tasted a little funny, but fine. The next morning, his roommate comes up and says, "Did anybody see my contact lenses?" His roommate's contact lenses were in the cup. He put them in the cup. So the question is, Adam mud lo'olam, he drank the guy's contact lenses. Is he mechuyev to pay? So, Rabbi Zilberstein reports that it was a machlokes. Reb Chaim Kanevsky paskined one way, and he and Reb Chaim Kanevsky married sisters. They married Rabbi Yosef's daughter. Rabbi Yosef's daughter ruled the other way. I'm not sure. Rabbi Zilberstein could be Reb Chaim Kanevsky's son-in-law, but I know Reb Chaim Kanevsky and Rabbi Yosef had a machlokes. Could be it's in there. And Reb Chaim Kanevsky said, "Adam mud lo'olam, Avad you got to pay." Rabbi Yosef says, "No, there's three reasons why you don't have to pay. A is he didn't do a ma'aseh mazik, he did a ma'aseh shtia. He can't be mechuyev for damages on the ma'aseh shtia. An interesting concept, but I'll tell you where that originates from. The other thing he said was the guy was a pesher, which mother mensch puts contact lenses on the kitchen table in a cup. It's a stupid thing to do. He's considered an oinus. And the third thing was that I don't remember what the third reason why. So on this shaila, what do you mean on a ma'aseh mazik? In every mazik, you have to intend to do damage. You drank someone's contact lenses. So this is where they bring a raya from a story that came to the Chazon Ish, where this truck driver is driving down the street and he's about to plow into a crowd of people. So he consciously swerves and he knows he's going to kill somebody on the side, but he figures, let me kill one person instead of killing 10 people. So he came to the Chazon Ish and asked them, A, did I do the right thing? And B is, what's my tshuva? L'maisa, I killed somebody. What is my tshuva? So the Chazon Ish says, you didn't do a ma'aser ritzicha. You did a ma'aser Yeshua. You did something to save people. Rahman al-Islam, someone got killed, but that's not even called like you did a ma'aser. It's not even called like you killed somebody, because if we have to classify what you did was you saved people. You know, it's a lot of damage, but unfortunately, it happens too often where somebody jumps on a grenade so that he saves other people. Right? That's what the soldiers are doing in Israel every single day. The Rebbeinu Shalom should help them soon, and they should free all the hostages and bring all the soldiers home and destroy all of our enemies. If someone sells pears to his friend, hareze mekabel alov roiva tinoifes lisa. Zokter Rashbam, hamoicha pears tvua. Hareze alakeach, he can't assume he's getting perfect, clean pears. Rather, mekabel of roiva hakav shall tinoifes l'cholsa. For every saw he buys, he's accepting upon himself a quarter of a kav of tinoifes. The stam tvua darko lios boroiva tinoifes. All tvu, when you're buying grain, it's going to come with little pieces in it that aren't pure grain. Yosy not more than that. In the first time of Gemara, imishum dina, imishum knas. Either in din you have to accept more, or it could be there's a knas, you know, I'll give you more. We'll see what the Gemara says. Te'enim, what if you're buying figs? Mikabel olav eser metulas lemeya. For every 100, it's 1% is going to be bad. Mutulai Dr. Rashbam, the urchai bachi. That is the norm. Uadin achas leeser, so too 1 in 10, because 10 out of 100 is 10%. It's not 1%. So I read it wrong. Martev shel yain. What if you buy a whole martev of yain? Mekabel of eser koisasais lemeya. Again, it's 10%. Kankanim b'sheroin mekabel of eser pizzais lemeya. These are, if you're buying a whole bunch of barrels, some of them might come cracked or damaged. Martev shel yain. V'yesh b'chaviyis harbe. It has a lot of chaviyos. Koisos yain ra. Koisos means bad wine. Koloimer eser chaviyos shel yain ra. For every 100 that he buys, the stam mei chaviyos urchayu be'eser koisos. Man, these guys are going to have very bad reviews on Amazon. 10% of their product is faulty. But umachalinish, it's understood when you buy something that's going to happen. And you moichol the gemara mukilach the amarlei martiv zeh shel yain ani moichelach. Koisos nearly kamoi perya yekoisos v'yovish ticheskel. It just means bad wine. I don't look on puzzle. Kankanim. If you buy a whole bunch of jugs, bisharoin, which was in certain malchus, pit miskadim roim. So pizza means it's a bad jug. It was cracked or whatever. It's assumed that when you buy in bulk, there's going to be some damaged item. Okay, I guess we should stop here and we'll tomorrow. Yes.